right, cue the siege tanks, cue the Marines. It's time for a Terran versus Terran here for our second series in the world bracket at Gamers Without Borders. Joining me to talk about the TVT, it's still you guys. All right, okay. We've got Rotterdam and Fear Dragon for this one. So, Roddy, let's start with you then, because I think you're particularly hyped to see how Spirit's going to fare in this good old TVT.
Yes, I mean, it's TVT. As I said earlier, it's not my favorite matchup in the game, but I do really care about storylines, I care about history, I care about stats. And these two, it just became fun, because at one point, a long time ago, Spirit got the best of Gabe once. Gabe had a little speech on his stream. He wasn't too happy with the games played out. Yeah. After that, Gabe just went mental, and for almost 2 years straight, he won every single series. It was a 23 series win streak over Spirit. But now, all of a sudden, ever since these maps and this patch, things have changed a little bit, and Spirit is not just getting wins, but it's getting big wins, like a 3-0, a 2-0, even on Gabe's Monday night. And that suddenly makes this a whole lot more fun to me, because now we don't know who's going to win, and there is all that history to work with.
Yeah, absolutely. Here, Fear Dragon, looking at how this matches up, are you as surprised as I kind of am, I suppose, as Spirit having this kind of winning record against HeroMarine lately? What are your thoughts coming in?
I mean, I think at this point, I have to be a Spirited fanboy of Spirit, because he has absolutely been killing it. And it's not just versus HeroMarine. If you actually look at a lot of his most recent matches the past couple of weeks, he really doesn't lose that often anymore to people that are not basically the top players, like a, like a Cure or like a Showtime or like a Clem or a Cyril or something like that. He's actually been way more consistent than any of the Spirit of the past. So I actually think there's a lot of hype and momentum coming into this for Spirit. But at the end of the day, we also have to reel it back in, because we're talking a lot of hype about Spirit. HeroMarine is still freaking HeroMarine. He is still really good, and I think he is also very good at TVT. So yeah. I don't think anyone can underrate and say like, oh, HeroMarine is like an underdog coming into this. But I think this is going to be a really fun, like potentially really even series.
I mean, he has those moments of brilliance as well. If you think back to Katowice, he beat bloody Maru Rotterdam. So, and I don't think anyone was expecting that at the time. So, HeroMarine can definitely have his moments.
Not even Gabe, I think, Kalaris. And Gabe is a man with a lot of confidence. But, none of that really matters, because obviously a special build was used there, the quick double factory to get a whole bunch of tanks out. And Gabe has a couple of very cheeky builds up his sleeve. I don't know if he wants to use those today, but we have to keep in mind that they play against each other so freaking often that they are almost developing a meta just against one another. And that's just, it makes things weird. And that's why you're going to see stuff that we would never tell anybody that tries to start playing StarCraft to do. It's like, for the first 6 minutes, you don't even make it past the halfway point of the map. You don't scout at all. You just go up to 3 bases and go tanks and Vikings. Like, it's crazy to even think about it. But these two, they seem to know each other very well. And by seeing very, very little, sometimes nothing, they see enough to make certain choices against these particular opponents. And I think that is kind of fun and weird and unique in its own way to get excited over. And one more thing that I think is cool when these two play against each other is that if I think of Clem against Gabe, I think of Clem as the faster player, and Gabe wins on strategy. But when I think of Gabe versus Spirit, then I think of Gabe, HeroMarine, as the faster player, and maybe Spirit getting the job done on strategy. So that, I think, makes it also kind of fun.
Well, I'm hearing we've got a few moments here before we actually get into this series. So before we do a Gamers Without Borders, let's play Guess the Player here to wrap things up.
I mean, that has to be Maru, right? Because of Marine Prince. Because he is younger than Marine King, but on the same team. I'm guessing Maru here.
That's just Maru, I think. It's just Maru.
Marine Prince. I have no idea. It sounds familiar, but I have no idea.
Dude, I don't know. I guess it's like an old school player. No, wait. Is it Maru? Yeah, of course it's Maru. What the
It must be ones that don't get as much credit as they are good. So the players that come to my mind are Bunny, Cure, and Ragnarok, I guess. Maybe Creator to a certain degree. I'm going with Ragnarok just because the nickname starts with an R.
I have absolutely no clue. That's probably like a rogue. I never heard of those nicknames.
I don't know. Yeah, I mean, I don't know.
Invisible. I have no idea. Patience. Oh, hero. Okay, okay. I don't know why though. Why would they call him invisible? No one knows, I guess.
That's Bjorn. Yeah, it's Bjorn. You don't need to. that one is very easy.
No, that's easy. That's just Björn.
That's Bjorn.
Okay, this one is really easy. It's beyond 100%.
It sounds like Dark, but I have never heard someone call him that. It has to be Dark though.
Final boss is such a familiar name, but I'm not sure. Is it just? I guess it's just. Is it just Dark then?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I don't want to blindly guess.
So this is either Dark or Rogue. The final boss? I think it's Dark. Okay, look, man. Recovered in the last two.
Yes, well done, Rainer. You recovered in the last one. I actually had to Liquipedia the Heroes one as well, because, Roddy, that was... What was that first? What was that?
I don't know. I'm drawing a blank on that. I also understand the players being a bit confused about Invisible, but I'm not bragging right now. I did guess Hero for myself, and I didn't know, but it was just based on the picture. I looked at the picture, and I was like, that looks like Hero. So I would have guessed Hero, but not because of the text underneath. And also, Claras, I want to say that I do hope that Gabe is a little more pumped up to play these games than he was for the guessing game, because I don't think he was having a great time.
Well, you know, I was half expecting him to just guess himself for each one. But anyway, all right. Well, thank you very much, gentlemen. It is now time to head over to the commentators to bring us this TVT. Regardless, we will have finally one Terran going down to the lower bracket today because it's a TVT. Let's go over to the casters.
Who the hell wrote those nicknames for Hero? Where did they come from? Have you ever heard Ralala as a nickname?
It's Invisible. I mean, I can't even pronounce the first one, but Invisible, I've never heard anybody call him that. Although I guess he's a fan of Dark Templar, all right? So maybe that's where it comes from. I'm not sure.
I guess. I mean, he has much better nicknames out there, right? So a little bit strange.
Just,
but,
you know, being the best Protoss, that's a pretty good nickname.
Yeah, that would be a pretty great nickname. And yeah, I mean, we'll see, like Roddy said, if Gabe is willing to, in this matchup at least, guess a little bit more blindly than he did in the guessing game, as Roddy was kind of talking about. Like, he is very likely to kind of metagame Spirit a little bit, and vice versa. So it should be a pretty exciting match.
Yeah, I just had a quick look at the stats. So historically speaking, they've faced off against each other in 54 tournament matches, and only 20% of them went in favor of Spirit. So HeroMarine historically has won a whole lot more. However, in their most recent 3 encounters, it's been Spirit who won every time, which is pretty amazing, right? So initially, yeah, like Roddy already pointed out, apparently it's HeroMarine who made a little speech and who then proceeded to win everywhere. But nowadays, it seems like Spirit has gotten very close.
He is definitely inching closer and closer. He is one of those players that has been consistently improving. So let's see if he can get past Big Gabe in a big stage. As in the top right-hand side for Mouse Sports, it is HeroMarine.
And down here in the bottom left of Royal Blood, we're looking inside of the main base of Spirit. Alrighty, a Terran versus Terran. This is one of those matchups that can, in my mind, usually last like 5 minutes or about 50 minutes, right? It feels like oftentimes there's very little in between, although, well, these two have a lot of history, so we'll see if they have got something spicy prepared for the opponent.
Most definitely. And I mean, the Raven has seen a little bit of a change, so we'll see if that actually ends up mattering here a bit, as, you know, like there's a little bit more or less time actually that is effective on the interference matrix, which was kind of a core part of the TVT before the patch. I think we're still very likely to see Ravens. We have been seeing Ravens used very often in this patch, but most Terrans would agree at this point that they are not as oppressive as they used to be in the matchup.
Yeah, we definitely still see them a lot because they have so much utility, right? I mean, they deal a lot of early game damage with the auto turrets. They can obviously... I love that shot. That looks so great. But anyways, we can obviously see the... look how in sync, actually, the orbitals are as well. That's so funny. They're basically identical when they come back up. There we go.
Almost want them to keep this shot until they morph, to see if they morph at the same time.
Yeah, that's sick.
Will they? Do you think so? Exact same time?
It's like half a second faster right here for Spirit.
All right, they're rotating pretty much at the same time.
There you go. See the mules? That's awesome.
Beautiful.
But yeah, no, you're definitely right. The Raven is still so important in this matchup, but not quite as important as it used to be.
Yeah, so we'll see what the players are able to make of it. Already a spotting supply depot for HeroMarine, who doesn't want to get proxy reapered, or just actually both players, they don't want to get proxy reapered or just want a heads up in case the other player tries to be sneaky so that they can reposition the units that are otherwise going to be parked at a more neutral position, such as their ramp.
I love that guy in the middle of the map just waiting for the other Reaper to come close. Of course, the player with the high ground vision will get the first shot in, and in these battles it can be absolutely critical. It'd be so funny if there was another Reaper on the exact opposite end of the ramp as well, but not quite the case.
That would be cool, yeah.
Yeah, just to stare off. They can't see very far, right? They can only... Somehow they can see behind themselves, but not very far in front.
Yeah. Absolutely. I think it's part of it is the ramp, right? Like the terrain going down makes it so that there's less distance that they can see. But
yeah, we have a little bit of variety, by the way. Spirit going for a faster starport in this particular game, whereas HeroMarine is only just now starting up his. He's pumping out a couple of those Reapers here, now transitioning towards Marines. So I'm expecting here that HeroMarine is going to be going across the map here shortly. We'll see.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, the starport is considerably faster for Spirit, though, so he is very likely to try something like a Helion drop as well. And that could be a little bit dangerous. Haven't seen, I guess, the natural of Spirit is already finished, so not really much for HeroMarine to do out on the map at this point in time. But if he stays back, I think he shouldn't have much of a problem holding this. He's already in a very good position. So Spirit kind of hoping to catch a funky timing where HeroMarine deems it that it's necessary or a good decision to move these units out of his main. If they stay here, I think if he gets the heads up, he should be able to deal with this comfortably.
Okay, so there is that medevac drop coming in right now. There should be a Cyclone available very soon as well for HeroMarine. The question is, does he see this? Because there's units, there's a dark area in the main base. There's a location where those units can drop off and not be spotted. And Spirit knows exactly where that is going to be, and he's going to be able to start roasting those SCVs.
Yeah, beautifully done for Spirit here. This is a little bit of what Roddy was talking about and even our observer was pointing to, right? Like Spirit knows how HeroMarine works. So if you study a player enough, there's going to be certain patterns that are repeating. It might come down to things like the positioning of your first few units, which isn't random, right? Like these players have thought about where to put these units because they've played this game so many times that it's very unusual for you to decide to put your units in a different location. So if your opponent can watch your VODs and identify your patterns in that regard, when nothing has happened, when the game is basically clean, we are very likely as human beings, I guess, to repeat those patterns. And Spirit kind of making use of that and abusing a little bit of the lack of vision that HeroMarine had here.
Gabe now going for a second starport as well, whereas for Spirit we have the third command center. So we'll have to see exactly what his plan is as far as aggression goes, but where's that second starport at? I'm not going absolutely crazy, no? Okay, there is one right over there, hiding in the back.
Absolutely bananas, and he's gonna actually move it, so he was just trying to hide it from the first few units or from a potential scan. Spirit already doing a good job of deflecting this army at the front. The tank had to shell these units once. I think one Reaper was lost in that process. The second one likely to go down to the Helion fire, and the Cyclone will look to punish a Helion, but unsuccessful this time around. It's instead Spirit who locks onto the Reaper of HeroMarine, further taxing him. So a good early game for Spirit, but HeroMarine does have that, you know, that hidden starport effectively that Spirit does not know about, and it's incredibly difficult to know about because of where he chose to build it. So a lot of mind games going on in this early game, and with that, HeroMarine is looking to secure himself an air advantage. He wants air control, and he wants some sort of timing. He wants basically a positional advantage. He has to move out with this soon, and that's exactly what he's gonna do.
Yep. He's not been making that many SCVs either. He's even going to send a couple of them with this army too. So HeroMarine is looking to deal crippling amount of damage here very, very soon. There are a couple Ravens available for Spirit, who now does encounter this army here in the middle of the map, but has he seen all the Vikings? Yeah, there's 3 available right now. I think there's more on the back of it, no?
Yeah, there's 3 at a time coming out of HeroMarine, and I would have expected more Vikings to be here out on the field already, but this is enough already to get him the advantage on the air, and that should net him an advantage to push on forward as well. So here he comes. It's the first interference matrix, and HeroMarine is just going to use it to try to position a tank, but actually gets in position for Spirit to shell away at that tank and forces the second interference matrix perhaps a little bit sooner than he would have liked. Spirit now utilizing all of his energy to try to defend himself with those auto turrets, and HeroMarine committing heavily here as he is going to be able to break on through in the last second of that siege tank not being able to shell away. Another one will be sieged back here. Red health on that Cyclone makes it very difficult for Spirit to utilize it effectively. And HeroMarine with a little bit of a positional advantage, but he also has to reinforce this, and he has already bled a lot of units, but the tanks, they're looking to capitalize here, Loco.
Yeah, no, for sure. He's trying to hold on here to his natural using those SCVs as well, but now he's forced to deal with siege tanks in his natural, and what exactly do you do to break this? I mean, Stimpback is going to finish up, but that doesn't really do much. He's trying to add on Vikings. I guess Liberators would be preferable, but against double starport production, how in the world are you ever going to get that air superiority?
Well, he has it right now on this side of the map, so I completely agree with you. He should have started, I think, one Viking. Well, that's never gonna work, my friend. Gotta get out of there. But I guess with the reinforcements and the Cyclone, actually, it's gonna be enough. He's gonna pull the boys as well to make sure that he can get his natural back. He has a third. Remember, HeroMarine does not. So Spirit holding here, even if it cost him a few SCVs, even if it cost him that pull, it's fantastic for him. Now he has to identify that he has the lead economically and retreat, reset, and just kind of let HeroMarine run into him until he dies.
Yeah, on the back of this though, HeroMarine is making a new command center as well, which is kind of curious. So maybe he sees a future in this game as well where he does transition. Worker-wise, things are relatively even, but of course, we've got the third base already landed here for Spirit for some time, right? So even though the trades were maybe not exactly what Spirit was looking for here, he's just got more income, and because of that, he can also, well, lose more units over time. So he does stabilize here eventually against a very curious little attack. Well, now HeroMarine though, I guess he got back to dropping some mules. Okay, well, some of them have expired. At the very least, he got a nice peak there.
Yeah, it was unfortunate for HeroMarine because I really think he wanted to be a little bit more methodical, right? Because he sieged that first tank in range of what he thought was just one of the tanks of Spirit, the one that he disabled. But the second tank started shelling, and that forced HeroMarine to go right there and then. And I think eventually it kind of paid off for Spirit, right? And I mean, he stabilizes and now gains an advantage, like you were mentioning, though. It is not as big as an advantage as I would have thought economically going into this mid game. But he does have that faster fourth. He does have that third a little bit earlier. But like you were pointing out, more or less even in terms of SCVs. So still anyone's game, I think.
Yeah, and the problem as well in TVT oftentimes is even when you do have that advantage in supply, like say it's 10 Marines more, like what exactly are you going to do with those Marines, right? Say it's like a roach war. If you have 10 more roaches than your opponent, well, you can just attack move. But in this matchup, you always have to get in range of your opponent's siege tanks. And being the defender just feels so much nicer. Now that's where, of course, those starports for Spirit are going to come in. You can get that air superiority and then use those Ravens very effectively as well. But yeah, it's a difficult matchup, even when you are ahead, to actually then obtain the victory.
Yeah, absolutely. And Spirit has done a great job of trying to capitalize on his advantages, like you were saying, kind of adding extra production, getting the faster fourth, and then he's going to have to play for capitalizing on his economic gains and his production gains over time. But HeroMarine, not really a sleeper on that front either, adding 2 CCs at once. He also has a little bit of catching up to do in terms of upgrades. So he is going to be the meching player this time around, looking to absorb, whereas Spirit is going bio already with 2-1 on the way for the upgrade front and transitioning and skipping kind of like the mech portion, the ground portion, to go straight into potentially BCs, I would imagine.
Yeah, he could go for some ranged Liberators, of course, as well. Also a fantastic option, as we do have some medevacs over here, dropping some units off. Not bad at all. Getting some kills here before those siege tanks eventually return back home. Nice little move right here by Spirit, okay? He does grab a lot of units, and eventually these Marines will be forced back, but that was a good catch for sure.
That was fantastic, right? And it also kind of gives him wind of what HeroMarine was trying to do with that move out. A very lucky timing, if you ask me, for Spirit as HeroMarine was moving out. I don't think he knew that that was the case, so finds himself in a position where he just kills a few SCVs for free and pulls the army back of HeroMarine. Also gets a lot of information, and again, he is the bio player looking to transition, so trading out bio units for similar cost against a meching player who is a little bit more contained in terms of bases and economy is fantastic for Spirit.
I like that so far we have basically had exactly what Roddy was predicting, right? Some weird meta games in the earlier stages of the match.
Oh, yeah.
But oftentimes these guys can still transition away towards a longer game, knowing each other very, very well. Now what HeroMarine is trying to do, of course, is make that ultimate Terran army, right? He's just trying to make as powerful a force as possible. One of the problems, though, you run into is that you need that air unit as well. You can kind of go for Thors and claw your way back into the game that way, but already we're at 16 Vikings. The advanced ballistics upgrade was coming up as well for Spirit, so that's the Liberator ranged improvement. And there's really not that much that HeroMarine can do against Mass Liberator.
No, absolutely. Spirit is going for that air transition that he wants to capitalize on sooner rather than later. This Viking fight is not good for HeroMarine, but maybe if the Thors can get involved, like you were mentioning before, as that now the Liberators are going to push on forward. First, they're going to get rid of the Vikings. The Vikings focus in the Liberators, but that makes it harder for them to kill the rest of the Vikings. I would love to see the production tab right now, as there is still 3 Liberators on the way. So as long as Spirit has this anchor of tanks, just the 4 and a little bit of bio should be enough buffer here, and then he can just look to capitalize and win on the air with his Liberator. So let's see what he's able to do here. Good position.
Space is in a little bit of trouble. HeroMarine, that is. He's trying to defend this by pulling some of the SCVs away as well. He's inching his own siege tanks forward, but that is not all too successful. Now the Vikings can even land on the ground as well. So the Vikings are apparently stealing the job that is usually the job of the Marines and the Marauders that were just, well, taking lunch, I guess. Loses a lot of Vikings, though. I don't
He does, but kills a few Thors, too, for his troubles. He's going to be very happy with this. I think he can maybe just push in and end the game as, HeroMarine is going to have to just tap out. What a crazy game that was. And I even love the fact that HeroMarine identifies how small the army is on the ground and tries to pull those SCVs. He nearly killed the tanks in time to kind of mitigate enough damage that maybe the Thors can get involved a little bit further, closer to his base and his reinforcements. But instead, it's the Vikings isolating those Thors, and at that point you're very happy with that trade, because the Thors is the last remaining force that HeroMarine has on the ground, and they're kind of useless, those Vikings up in the air, when they have already won the air fight for Spirit. So just beautiful moves from him, lots of metagaming, lots of big brain gaming here from both players, but Spirit will take the lead.
Okay, so here we have a replay of that engagement earlier on in one of the final fights of this particular game, the one where Spirit was trying to zone away HeroMarine's army. And HeroMarine is looking at this, he realizes I can't hold on to the base, and in the meantime Spirit is expanding all over the map.
Yeah, and that's kind of like what we see when we see bio versus mech, but also Spirit being proactive as well right now, not letting really HeroMarine ever get that invincible army that you were talking about, ever get maxed or close to. He was applying pressure, he was trading, and a lot of his trades look fantastic, to be honest.
Yeah. So cute game number 1 right there by HeroMarine, going for the double starport approach. Not something that I've personally seen him play that much. Curious to see if he's going to bring something similar again in game number 2, because in my mind, he usually likes playing that more, well, conventional style, right? The more laid back, the more defensive approach. So we'll see what he decides to go for here in the second game of this best of 3 series. So again, the last 3 times that these two have faced off against each other, it was all Spirit, but before that, HeroMarine practically every time.
Yeah. And we'll see if he's able to turn it around this time around, because Spirit is on a hot streak against him. So spawning in the top left-hand side, it is for Mousesports, Gabriel HeroMarine Segat.
And his opponent in the opposite corner of Gresvan, he's known by the name of Piotr, but on the internet he goes by the name of Spirit. I don't know his last name though. I was impressed you knew.
Starts with a W and has a J and probably a Z as well.
It's one of those Polish words.
Yeah, I feel like those
20 characters and like 3 vowels. You're like, okay, how do I pronounce it?
Let's skip that. Let's skip that. Trying to pronounce that one. Yeah, for sure.
So we're on Gresvan. This is one of those maps that we see time and time again, right? Super popular map. Probably the most popular map in the current map pool, if I were to make a guess. Just because it's, well, we have a double barracks opener once again here. Some aggression from Gabe. But this is usually a relatively standard map.
Yeah, not this time around. At least not for the openers for Gabe. Also a second gas here, so very likely to see a bunch of Reapers being produced here. Very cool start, very cool start. Risky though, right?
Definitely a little bit risky, yeah. When your series is on the line here. Spirit already showing us in game number 1 that his defense is excellent. He's going to be opting to go for a normal build in the meantime, by the way. Looks like he is thinking about even making a command center already on the low ground. Going for a single gas opener.
Yeah. And you know, yeah, I mean, this could bode very well for HeroMarine as we see our split screen again. But in the previous game, you know, like thinking further on that double starport, and I would be curious to hear what the analysts think about this as well and what you think. But it was almost not 2 starports from HeroMarine. It almost felt like 1.5, right? And he never got that many Vikings because he had the tech lab after producing those Ravens, and he never switched it off. And I'm not saying that he should, because there was probably some economical constraints as far as how many Vikings you can actually pump on that much economy. But just getting the 1 extra Viking per cycle, right, didn't seem to net him enough of an advantage to mitigate for the defender's advantage of just having constant production on the other side closer to, you know, to your defense. So
yeah, no, it certainly didn't look like he had that much more starport production than his opponent, right? So obviously also Spirit switching over to a reactor on his own starport, that made things a little bit better. Anyways, here's when those Reapers finally show up on the other side of the map. The bunker's not done just yet. Command center also not finished. Okay, he's gonna have to try and finish that though, because well, he needs the command center, but he also needs the supply.
Yeah, but that's huge. Getting rid of 1 Reaper, again, when you're looking to snowball, and the advantage is on Spirit's side as far as HP as well for the next 2 remaining Reapers. So the CC is going to be finished. The SCV is not even going to go down.
No, 1 hit point, man. That's all you need. As long as your health is above 0, that's all you're really looking for. Yeah, here's those Reapers now jumping into the main base, but the problem is now there's a Hellion available as well, and they deal a lot of splash damage. Excellent defense once again from Spirit.
I mean, absolutely brilliant. And this was a heavy commitment from HeroMarine. You really can't afford to lose that first Reaper, right? Because you're looking for a snowball scenario here. At least he will catch these Reapers out in the open, still gets 2 of his Hellions taken down, but at least manages to keep Spirit in the dark. Maybe this is the time to take a risk back at home if you're HeroMarine, right? Just hope that your opponent doesn't attack, or prepare for a huge attack yourself and hope that your opponent goes for some greedier build, because this early game has not favored him at all so far.
Yeah, Spirit following this up with the double tech lab again as well, not really producing a whole lot of units just yet. HeroMarine in the meantime still with his foot on the gas. He can certainly send everything he's making right now towards the other side. As the Reapers go around the side too. I like that.
It is nasty. It is nasty, and it is a feature of this map that I personally often forget about. So HeroMarine probably choosing this strategy in part because of that, right? You have that extra avenue to jump inside, and now the Reapers of HeroMarine are doing fantastic. They are all gonna stay alive as well. That Hellion, praying for his life, needs to be repaired.
Health is a resource, apparently, man. So far, we've had a lot of very low hit point units, but Spirit holds on, and that's the most important part, right? He's already started up a 3rd command center now as well, whereas HeroMarine just went for his own natural, finishing up the orbital. What about the Cyclone in the main base, though?
Paying attention, and very quick to react. Pulls back the Cyclone while pulling the SCVs forward. Will get 3 out of those 4 Reapers that jumped into his main. So great job from Spirit once again. HeroMarine now trying to get map control with a Cyclone of his own and going for the 4 gases. So probably mech again. His bio would be extremely delayed. He only has 1 factory, I think, worth of production. Oh, he is actually going bio. Okay, he has stim on the way and everything. He's getting a lot of gas, however, whilst being behind economically. So yeah, I'm not sure how this is gonna scale against a Spirit that has had a very strong early game here. The SCV count's still pretty similar though.
Yeah, but Spirit has been investing his advantage right here into a 3rd command center, right? So that's where he's been spending his cash for now. It's not an overwhelming advantage necessarily either, but it's certainly the start you're looking for. Now he's going to be the player here who can strike back. He's got a couple Ravens around the map. They'll be looking to throw up some auto turrets. One of them is even already queued up. Wonder if that's going to pull that Cyclone from the main base away, because Spirit would also like to drop behind the main base mineral line, and that's exactly what he does.
Yeah, absolutely. And this could actually cost Spirit a little bit. If I'm HeroMarine and I'm seeing these Ravens actually pop and spend their energy on my side of the map, I'm probably pretty happy because, again, like you pointed out, Spirit does have that third CC on the way. So even though the SCV counts were pretty similar, now it's a 10 worker difference, and that is before the third CC kicking in, right? So Spirit is going to scale much better into the mid game. Do not be fooled by the supply. So HeroMarine was always going for a move like this one that we're seeing out of him. He is going for a little bit of a doom drop. So you are, again, very happy that Spirit just spent 2 auto turrets on the other side from his Ravens that he's not gonna have available on defense, and he didn't need that because he was already way ahead economically, but he doesn't necessarily know that, right? Like HeroMarine could have been just extremely greedy behind it.
The Ravens are coming back home right now as well, and they need to be here because HeroMarine is just about to go into the opponent's natural expansion. There's a lot of good positions for those tanks, and we'll see where he decides to drop them off, decides to siege them up inside of his opponent's mineral line. There's the interference matrixes, though, being dropped down, and Spirit is going to try and break this before that upgrade runs out or before that ability runs out. Brilliant movement once again here from the Polish town.
Yeah, we were talking about the Raven energy spent on the other side, but Spirit apparently saved just enough, so barely manages to get those tanks, and I mean, that was all the steam that HeroMarine had as he loses another medevac with the last remaining big unit there, and will even land the Vikings on the cleanup. This is looking terrible for HeroMarine.
Yeah, no, brilliant control here so far by Spirit. Honestly, just looking like the better player in this series so far, right? And I don't mean that with any disrespect towards HeroMarine at all, but HeroMarine has been going for some very aggressive builds and trying his best, trying his luck. It's not working out. There's another 2 medevacs moving across the map, but there's like, what, 6 units in them in total?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, this is not going to do anything indeed. And he is looking like the better player, but it almost feels like HeroMarine has approached this series as if he was the worst player. He is the one that has been actively taking risks.
Yeah.
He is the one that has been trying to close out the game a little bit earlier. And I'm not sure. I mean, Roddy might have a little bit more to say because he watches these players go at it so often in the European Cups. But yeah, I mean, I don't know how their other most recent games have gone to force HeroMarine into this mentality of I have to kill Spirit early on or I have to do damage early on, because we've entered both mid games with huge advantages for Spirit.
Yeah. This is usually the type of style that people play against somebody like Maru, right? Like somebody that they really don't want to face in a longer game. So HeroMarine trying his very best to put his foot on the gas, but so far Spirit has just been holding him left, right, and center, deflecting every blow. It's not game over just yet, though, because Spirit, once again, is taking this advantage with another command center. We already saw him doing that earlier as well. Not really taking a lot of chances. He'll be forced to move out here eventually, because, well, he's going to be supply blocked at 200 if he keeps going this way. But once more, it's going to be HeroMarine who will continue the aggression, and, well, this one starts off with a free Liberator. Not bad.
Not bad, that's something. And he's going to catch up and actually get ahead in terms of upgrades for a quick second there. HeroMarine is. I don't think that'll offer him much of a timing, especially now with the sensor tower coming up and Spirit just kind of gearing up for the later stages of the game. Again, he, like you mentioned, he is setting up that extra command center, which he did so in the previous game as well. He was faster to the third. He will be faster to the fourth. Already a 20 worker advantage for him. So things are looking fantastic, but it is a TVT. It is a very positional matchup, and these tanks account for a lot on defense, right? It's very difficult to breach. You need to pay a lot of taxes if you want to, and I don't believe, are there any Ravens out on the map right now that we can show perhaps the units tab?
Spirit still has one. Yeah, he still has one left over from the earlier game, right? So that one has 5 confirmed kills as well. Beautiful scout. Look at that scout there. That Marine moving in perfectly, spotting that HeroMarine is once again ready for an attack. And now you, well, like you said, you have to pay those taxes, right? If you want to push into those siege tank lines, you're going to have to pay with a couple Marines.
Exactly, and the answer for that usually would be the Ravens, but there's only one on the side of Spirit. So I'm surprised that HeroMarine is actually the one moving out, but this arc is going to favor him, and Spirit is going to be a little bit late. What is he doing? Back to your tanks. What? How are 5 Marines pushing an army? What? What's going on here?
These guys are painted in blue, Cats.
Oh my God.
They're significantly scarier, but he certainly just gave away a lot of his units there. I'm not exactly sure.
That was strange.
Assuming he had a little bit more value there, but anyway, Spirit does have the army disadvantage right now. 112 supply versus 85. Well, there's a siege tank going down, I suppose, but
yeah, I mean, HeroMarine kind of giving himself a chance, but now he will get shelled that shower from the skies. And
Well, in the meantime, though, there's also that fight happening at the third base, and well, this one will be deflected once more by Spirit, slipping up just a little bit, but I think he should still be okay. Well, if it's up to HeroMarine, though, he's going to continue piling on the pressure. Looks like he's ready to move in here on the right, but that would be a mistake against that many.
That would be a mistake. Yeah, and he's already made it once with the Marines, right? So he really doesn't want to make more mistakes at this point. The good news for HeroMarine here, I think, is that they are getting closer to max. He does have some semblance of map control, perhaps Spirit respecting HeroMarine a little bit too much, and with that, he's actually going to find a huge opening here where Spirit is not in position with all but 2 tanks, but HeroMarine doesn't pounce on the tanks actually. Spirit is able to buffer with some of those Marines. 1 tank has remained alive an unfair amount of time, but now finally gets taken down. Spirit
decides to drop on top of all of those tanks, or at least try to, but in the process, he also already lost 22 SCVs. HeroMarine comes out swinging, man. Eventually, one of these fights was supposed to go well, and, well, it certainly happened. Brilliant stuff right here by the German.
I can't believe he's done this. I mean, he's doing it right now. He's gonna go for a little bit of a doom drop, but he has to be careful. There is a tank sieged already there. A little bit crazy is this game in terms of the attacks and the positions that these players are choosing to attack on. Like, very happy to kind of play like, it almost feels like a CVC to some degree, where you're just kind of running Ling Bane into Ling Bane, right? Not respecting the life of these Marines and the effort that they have put into it.
Spirit, in the meantime, trying to expand on the right side of the map as well. He's getting the advanced ballistics upgrade once again, but HeroMarine wants to close out this game before any of those things kick in, and it looks like he's going to be able to clean up the siege tanks. What seemed like a dominating advantage for Spirit just a little bit ago is now looking really good right here for the biggest of Gapes, who's trying to roll his siege tanks into the opponent's natural. That's where a lot of the production is at. GG.
Unbelievable. Wow. If you had asked me like 3 or 4 minutes ago, like if you told me like the game will end in 3 minutes, there is no chance that I would pick HeroMarine. But I mean, exploiting some very nice timings. We saw the 2 starports at the front of that expansion of Spirit, so that was probably a 3 starport setup. So he didn't have all of his production on the ground, and we didn't really see the air kick in for Spirit. So I think that is what offered Big Gabe an opening here, and yeah, I mean, he will even the series up.
We had that one strange little skirmish, right, over at the third base at the bottom of the ramp on Spirit's side of the map, where we just saw a bunch of Marines trying to chase down a much larger Terran army. And that's ultimately where he ended up losing, I think, like maybe 20 supply worth of units for what was essentially free there. And that's what ultimately gave HeroMarine the chance to, yeah, once again, start fighting on the other side of the map. I mean, he was looking for a mistake, and eventually he found one. Is this the HeroMarines right over here? Trying to push back. Look at these HeroMarines against HeroMarine. That's insane.
Yeah, I mean, this was crazy as well. I thought those tanks would get taken down right away by these Marines, but Spirit did hang on for a little bit longer there. And yeah, I mean, an absolutely crazy game. I think that from the position that Big Gabe was in, it was so very difficult, and your options are usually pretty binary. Like, push on the gas pedal and try to end the game, right? Try to just all in effectively, which is very difficult, like we've been talking about in TVT, or just sit back, take some risks economically, and come back in that way, right? It is very difficult to just play a normal game from there. And he chooses the all-in route and punishes Spirit for the transition, plus a couple of those strange moves from Spirit in the process too.
Yeah, you need to get a little lucky at some point, I suppose, right? Sometimes in a game of StarCraft 2, it's all about the player who makes the mistake. And, well, I guess if you play flawlessly, you would never be losing that many of your matches. But yeah, there's always the problem of human input, right? You have to try and play perfectly, but there's so many things to manage all at once. That, however, is nice for us, the fans, because that means we're going to go to a map number 3 between these 2 players. It's going to be on altitude, and spawning right here in the bottom left-hand corner, we have the man who's been incredibly aggressive so far today, and he goes by the name of HeroMarine.
And in the top right-hand side, with 2 advantages off of the early game in the previous 2 games, but failing to close out the last one, it is Spirit.
Yeah, Spirit setting himself up for that late game transition, right? Like you were pointing out, going for the ranged upgrade on the Liberators, adding on the additional starports. He probably assumed at some point that, well, HeroMarine would not be so aggressive anymore, right? There was supposed to be a little bit of time to breathe in that game, so he added on the starports, the extra command center. He was happily playing the macro game there. And suddenly HeroMarine comes across once again.
Absolutely. And I think you do right to call it luck to some degree. But at the same time, these players, like Roddy was mentioning, know each other so well that it was probably a weighted die from HeroMarine, right? Because he knows that Spirit is very likely to transition, is very likely to get caught with his pants down in that sense. We saw what he did in first game, and in the second game, actually, Spirit was doing kind of the same exact transition into the late game, right? So a lot of the investment that he had did not pan out, it did not pay off, it didn't really come into play at all, and HeroMarine exploited that beautifully.
Double gas opener right here from HeroMarine on Altitude. This is one of those very large maps, right? We have big maps in StarCraft 2, but Altitude feels absolutely massive. This will mean, though, that he's going to be able to get that factory going once again a little bit quicker than Spirit, whereas Spirit is going to be able to go for the command center a little bit quicker. And usually that means, well, you probably aren't surprised to learn that HeroMarine will likely be the aggressor here. He will likely send more units towards the other side.
Yeah, absolutely. It's an issue of which units will be sent, and he will be looking to do some damage. Otherwise, Spirit is just going to pull ahead. But Spirit's defense has been flawless so far, so we'll see if HeroMarine has something better this time around.
He's actually building the CC right next to his main command center as well, right? That's one of those things where you are apparently a little concerned of some aggression once again coming across the map super early. I mean, in the previous game, it got a little bit closer than he was hoping for. Now he's going to have to fly that one down towards the low ground, but Spirit just once again settling in for a nice macro game here.
Yeah, even though it is a massive map and he did get CC on the low ground last time around with a similar opening, maybe this time around he thinks, okay, maybe you're likely to proxy this time around, right? Like proxy Reapers or even Marauders or something strange. So I'm just going to play it safe, says Spirit, and goes for that high ground CC very, very tucked in, as a Hellion is going to come out and just look for some more of that defense. So Spirit knows that he is playing the greedier side of things. At least conceptually, it's more or less as greedy as you can be in this matchup in the early stages. There is no such thing as gasless or delayed gas or delaying the factory much more than a single gas will do.
No.
So, yeah. He's got
the tech units in this matchup are just so incredibly powerful, right? I mean, Marines are obviously amazing, but Siege Tanks, Ravens, Vikings, Liberators, we've seen all the value out of those units already as well. So both players opting for relatively quick economies here, but on the back of it, also quite a bit of gas. In the other matchups, usually you want to delay that gas for as long as possible. And I guess they kind of do delay it for as long as possible in this matchup too, but just turns out you got to get it quite early, as Ravens are once again coming up, by the way.
Yeah, and it is a very interesting opening actually from HeroMarine, who did mine the gases earlier, did take 2 gases, but saturated the minerals primarily. He was only mining the gases with 2 SCVs each for most of the duration of that, and actually skips the Hellions completely in favor of Cyclones, in favor of a very fast Cyclone, right? Which means if Spirit crosses the map on this very large map like we have talked about, and runs into a Hellion, that could be a very nice defensive advantage and trade that HeroMarine gets in that process, also accelerating his Raven production as a result. So both players just kind of chilling, and HeroMarine is going to be in a pretty comfortable situation here in the early game, the most comfortable that he's been so far anyway.
Yep, Spirit is going to go for the 3rd command center already, as both players are looking to play a little bit of a longer game. When I think of Terran players that like to play long macro games, I mean, Spirit certainly comes to mind. Maybe Maru comes to mind as well, but Spirit, definitely the type of guy who's happy to play a 35-minute long game every single game. At least in my mind, that's the type of player that he is. He played quite a few of those games at Katowice as well, having some really good results too, like against, well, the very best players on the planet. So yeah, I'd like to see a long macro game between these two. I think that'd be a lot of fun.
Yeah, no, for sure. As far as player fingerprints, a lot of players like to close out games with their advantages. Spirit usually just drops more command centers and goes to his transition a little bit faster. So it is a pretty good approach. Does make him a little bit predictable, perhaps. That poor Reaper, died alone in the middle of nowhere.
Yeah. Siege Tank and 4 Marines. He was going to die regardless, but he didn't even get into the main base there.
Exactly. He didn't even see anything.
No.
Very sad life for him. As Steam is coming for both players going for their CCs as well. Their 3rds are now finished. Spirit's going to be a little bit faster to his, as his is on location. HeroMarine will have to float his. And I mean, this map is so very large. Even though there's watchtowers in the middle, they don't really cover all of the ground that can be traveled. So We see that the players are happy to put some units out on the map, as now HeroMarine prepares for his first bit of aggression. It's just going to be auto turrets in the main of Spirit, who's going to have to evacuate, having no units here. HeroMarine, great discipline there, not to drop the auto turrets right away, but rather follow the SCVs to see if he can get a little bit more damage. But nice readjustment of Spirit to pull them to the side as well. He will lose 3, but not the worst trade in the world for that much energy, and potentially a Raven going down.
Yeah, I like the interference matrix on the Raven right there. In the end, the auto turret does still drop, and we have one in the main base too, as this other the other Raven is trying to get on out of there. Needs to find a path back home that hopefully those Vikings won't spot, and well, it looks like Spirit is not even really going to try and chase it down. That being said though, 4 SCVs right there at the cost of a Raven. Not really what you're looking for, although there's always a lot of lost mining time as well.
Yeah, and also he picked off 2 of the SCVs, or forced them off of the production, right? So those barracks are going to be a little bit more delayed as a result. And a really nice move as well from HeroMarine in the disengaging, like you were pointing out. He kind of split the Ravens in 2 different locations, so it made it very difficult for Spirit to even think that he can catch the second Raven after deciding to kill the one in the north.
Yep, and we'll see that Raven coming back into play here momentarily. HeroMarine just hiding it in the bottom right-hand corner for now. Gets to go on a little mountain expedition. There's always a huge mountain in the bottom right-hand corner here. There you go.
Oh, wow.
The Raven just having a good time, man. He's having the best time out of any unit on this map right now.
Is he? There's not even snow in those mountains for some reason. Like, you would think that the mountains are more snowy than the regular grounds. But not the case here.
Yeah, I think this map is built on top of a mountain somewhere, man.
I guess that's the case, yeah. Oh, it is cold altitude. So,
Whoa!
duh.
Figured it out.
We got it.
Did you know that some maps are underwater, Cats? Have you ever heard of that?
I knew, yeah.
No, you're definitely right, though. I'm not very good with map names usually. Yeah, altitude now makes a lot of sense all of a sudden.
Makes a lot more sense, yeah. The snow is at the top, and the other mountains on the side are actually...
But there's still grass, though. Maybe it's just end of spring or something.
That's
Anyways,
a little weird, yeah.
We do have a push coming across the map right now for Spirit, who's thinking about moving into the siege tank line. I mean, he needs interference matrices. That's exactly what he does, but there's still a couple tanks available.
Oh my god, this looks so scary, but so expertly done for Spirit. I mean, if those were my units, they all would have died, but Spirit actually punching on through. Somehow, some way, beautiful pre-spreads there on the Marines, right? Absorbing the tank shots beautifully. And with the interference matrices, he is actually going to get himself a nice advantage.
The SCVs are pulled away as well right now, though, to try and soak up a couple hits for these tanks right here, because HeroMarine realizes he needs to strike back. He will kill this all, but at the cost of, well, basically a reset of the armies and a couple of SCVs.
Yeah. So Spirit once again with that economic lead heading into the later stages of the game. So we have to be looking for him to make that transition. And, you know, like I almost expect that there's going to be a couple of starports and range liberators being started kind of soon. But yeah, Spirit again in a decent position. Not nearly as good as it was in game 2 or in game 1 or even in game 2.
Yeah, really lovely control right there with Spirit, though. I'm with you. When he first moved up that ramp, I was like, ooh, that could go horribly wrong. And somehow he was like, yeah, no, this is fine. I got this. But those are the type of fights when you practice them 20 times, I feel like they will go poorly like 18% or 18 times out of 20. But absolutely, you micro it very well. You can negate a lot of that splash damage that the opponent's siege tanks will deal. Anyways, there's a little bit of a drop coming in from the left side of the map as well. So Planetary Fortress is coming up all the way at the 6 o'clock.
All right. So let's see how the players approach this later stages of the game. As Spirit is going to get deflected, his drop is. So in the middle of the map, HeroMarine with a little bit of map control, Spirit prepares for another base taking or perhaps a move out towards that planetary fortress.
Yeah, it's always difficult to break a planetary, of course, but it all comes down to how many siege tanks you can get in range of it. That's where those sensor towers are so powerful as well, right? HeroMarine is going to be able to see these blips on the radar coming in from quite a distance, and, well, he knows exactly where that army is located.
And yet he's still caught out of position here. The tanks are gonna arrive late, and Spirit is ready for more than just one tank. I mean, if there was 3 tanks already pre-siege, Spirit would still be able to breach as long as he can retain this air control, which he very much can. But the Vikings are actually fighting on top of 4 Marines who are firing non-stop. Still, Spirit gets what he came for. But on the other side of the map, as we see in the picture-in-picture, HeroMarine will punch back.
Yeah. A command center for a command center right there in the end. A couple of Marines trying to be annoying as well. They will kill a few of the SCVs. There's a lot of reinforcing units available though for Spirit, so he shouldn't really take a lot more damage from that drop that came in from the left. But that was a scary amount of damage taken right there for, well, really both players, right? Both players ended up paying right there their fourth command center.
Yeah, absolutely. The Ravens are still alive for Spirit, and that is a beautiful flank as well. Will tax a lot of these units of HeroMarine, who has to now retreat. What I loved about what HeroMarine did is he had the weaker army positionally, like very difficult to breach into tanks, but he had more Marines. So that was a good trade in that sense, and he did reset the Viking count. But if you look at Spirit's army, I still like it a little bit better, right? Like he has those Ravens going for him. Upgrades, a little bit in favor of HeroMarine as far as timings are concerned. So this game's still very much in the air, but the supply for now in favor of the Polish player.
Yeah, +3/+3 has started up for HeroMarine pretty quickly as well, so he is going to have a nice timing window as well in the future. Ooh, the medevac drop actually does get spotted. HeroMarine thinks, okay, maybe I can stim and get underneath. Not quite the case. There's a large Terran army moving over here at the bottom of the map too, and the medevacs do manage to get back home, but this is allowing HeroMarine to get into a very dangerous position, and he now stims up the ramp.
Yeah, very, very scary moments here as Spirit did manage to siege his tanks, and HeroMarine, I feel like, could have pushed a little bit further with those tanks. And now it's gonna be Spirit and HeroMarine duking it out here at the natural base of Spirit, and HeroMarine looks to be taking the better end of that trade, but will actually disengage against the SCV reinforcement. There was only 4 Marines, and actually double medevac versus just the one of Spirit, so I feel like his staying power was a little bit stronger than disengaging right there and then, but maybe deems that he did enough damage already.
Yeah, he's going to come back in, hoping that those Marines from earlier are distracted. Maybe he can get a couple more workers. That would certainly be nice. HeroMarine, though, camping out on the map for a while now, boosting in a couple medevacs on the right side of... Oh my god, as well. But he flies straight into a couple of missile turrets, rather, with his medevacs that deal a lot of damage.
Yeah, nice rally from Spirit there, so his reinforcements are gonna deal with that swiftly. And now HeroMarine set up here at the bottom of this ramp. Spirit with full vision there with the watchtower, and it's a scary position to siege if you're HeroMarine, because you don't have the high ground advantage. So if you're not constantly scanning, then your opponent could just siege on top of you and kill you before you can react. So he's gonna do the sensible thing here and try to disengage. And now on hot pursuit is Spirit. Even a siege right now might be too late for HeroMarine. Those tanks are gonna get taken down. The one that was sieged, these 3 tanks in the back are the last remaining line of defense here for HeroMarine, and they will indeed push the Marines back, but what a scary moment.
Yeah, that pullback right there from Spirit was wonderful as well, though, because HeroMarine is setting up a huge flank on the left side of the map. I don't know if Spirit saw it, but he could sniff it out at the very least. Once again, we are going to engage with the massive armies right now. Siege tanks are sieging up. Spirit tried to bait his opponent's Marines into the siege tank lines as well, but HeroMarine's spread is just amazing.
Yeah, but beautiful job from Spirit, even saving that last pocket of Marines there, the 6 Marines or so. If those Marines die, it's very easy for HeroMarine to just spread his Marines and kill those 3 remaining tanks, even with just the 10 remaining or so. But with those Marines outputting damage, it would be impossible to kill those tanks in time for them before your own Marines, in the case of HeroMarine, end up falling. So really nice job there from Spirit, tucking himself back in and making the best out of what looked to be a very strong start to the engagement from HeroMarine.
Upgrades have been really good for HeroMarine here for a little bit, but over the next minute or so, those upgrades are going to equalize this. Well, you can't go past 3-3 in StarCraft 2. HeroMarine would very much so like to go to 4-4, I guess, but sadly for him, not an option. And that means that at least in the straight-up battles, these fights should look a little bit more even. That being said, though, HeroMarine right now taking his 5th command center on the left side of the map, or I guess that's his old main base. Whereas HeroMarine is marching up north to try and take care of that new expansion here from Spirit.
And this would be massive, because HeroMarine already on 5 bases, Spirit just on the 4. So if he gets 1 taken down, it might be lights out for him. I don't see many opportunities for him to come back, and already HeroMarine in a fantastic position. There aren't the number of Ravens to dislodge this. So again, Spirit is gonna have to do something else, and he chooses to go for the counterattack. I don't even know if you should be repairing that planetary fortress. There's no saving it for sure. And HeroMarine even taking down the 3rd. Spirit is completely all in here. Loquito, will he be able to do it? I doubt it.
Yeah, he's gonna try his very best. Stim up the ramp right here on his opponent's side of the map as well. He's gonna be able to get straight into the main base. That is where all of the production of HeroMarine is located. HeroMarine hasn't gotten quite to that point yet, as he decides to actually now return back home while sending his SCVs in the direction of his army. He decides to evacuate the main base just entirely, get out of here, try to continue, well, I guess building stuff at another time, but well, this does mean that Spirit is trapped, right? Where in the world is he gonna go?
Nowhere. He just has to trade as effectively as he can on this ramp, so protect his tanks. He's already doing that. These medevacs are not going to be very effective with that many Marines down there, and HeroMarine is trying for it regardless. I don't know if this is the move for Big Gabe here. The Marines are going to get quickly thinned down. One of those tanks will be in range. Actually, all of them will be, so...
Yeah, the siege tank count, I guess, is pretty nice right here for HeroMarine, right? 15 versus 2. You don't have to be very good at math to figure out who will end up winning that engagement. Then again, though, Spirit does still have a little bit of army on the other side of the map as well, if I'm not mistaken. So I would really like to see him regrouping all of his units.
Oh, the scan is going to reveal the tanks are exposed. That's potentially 6 tanks falling for free here. Marine with a little bit of a slip up there. And 6 tanks will fall as Spirit reclaims the advantage. And if we look at the map, I mean, we were talking about how patchy my beard is. Look at HeroMarine's side.
Yeah, no, he is spread all over this bottom section of the map. There was an army moving in, Spirit expecting a command center to be mining down south on the left side of the map, but he didn't even find one, and that must be a pretty good feeling, as Spirit right now has flipped his game upside down, and he's now got a supply advantage. He's retaking his bases.
Wow.
He's once again producing units.
What the hell is going on? I mean, HeroMarine was in such a commanding position. 5 base as he moved into the 4th of Spirit and forced a lift-off on the 3rd. So gets 2 bases for free, but then a little bit shy, pushing on forward to seize the means of production of Spirit. It's instead Spirit that threatens the main of HeroMarine, and I loved the decision of HeroMarine to just kind of evacuate all of the production from his main. But I'm not sure that he needed to pull everything back for it. And then those tanks being exposed, definitely Spirit back in this game in full force. And it's difficult to say who's going to take it, but...
Needs to be careful, though, because those Liberators are absolute key. And it looks to me like he may very well end up losing them here. Okay, he's going to lose 1, I believe.
Oh,
right. No.
Mistake there from HeroMarine.
The Viking decided to retarget. In the end, though, Spirit needs to calm down a little bit. I don't think he can really push into those siege tank lines again, although, well, he showed us wrong earlier, not too long ago, where he also did the same thing on the same map.
I mean, he's surely going to scout or scan ahead if he wants to do it this time around. I think the Liberators are the sensible choice if he can get some Vikings out, but he's not really prioritizing that. Now he is. Drops 2 starports instantly. So now it's worth... It is very expensive, and it's not going to kick in for a while, so I'm actually surprised that he's stimming in forward. It is inconsistent, right? Like, you just dropped what you think is going to net you the game later on, like...
He's got no medevacs
3 minutes from now.
So all of these things are super pricey.
Super pricey. I mean, this is a little bit of a choke, if you ask me.
And he's trying his very best to see if he can win the game right here, right now. And this is going to give HeroMarine an opportunity to go in for a counterattack. There's no planetary here anymore because that one got destroyed by the tanks earlier. And this is now a couple SCVs going down. He's aiming for even the command center itself, but that might be a little bit overly greedy.
Yeah, and the SCVs are actually repairing the command center instead of going on top of the Marines, which is actually going to make it so that the Marines of Spirit cannot win that fight. And again, I mean, HeroMarine now reclaims the control of this game. It is absolutely bananas.
Does HeroMarine know about the base at the 3 o'clock? I don't think he's spotted that location, has he? Because that would be kind of important for him to realize that there is still a mining base over there. Yeah, he has no vision of that side of the map whatsoever.
His army
could get a little bit dicey for him.
Yeah, but his army's already in a position where if he scouts it, if he scans it, if he sends a unit forward, or even just sends his army scouting looking for that 3rd, this might just end up closing the game.
Well, HeroMarine is certainly hunting down whatever he can right now. He's going to accidentally stumble upon that base, it seems, as he's ready to send a drop into the main base. Spirit, once again, ready to send about everything he's got towards the other side of the map. Earlier, that went really well for him, but right now I'm starting to be a little bit concerned here, because HeroMarine just... Well, he's in a really good sieged-up position, and he's going to find out about this base right now, too.
Yeah, that's a freebie. I mean, a wonderful move here from HeroMarine, and I'm surprised that Spirit thinks that he has to defend, because in the long run, this is not gonna pan out well for him. He's gonna take 23 SCVs worth of losses in a game where he's already economically pretty much dead. I mean, this medevac is buying too much time.
Yeah, that's exactly it, right? He's buying so much time with it. So the Liberator is here to finish the job. I think Spirit is just going to try and go for one final push. Well, they're kind of like sentries. They don't do a lot of air-to-air, but eventually they will get the kill. Yeah, so HeroMarine should just sit, right? He should just sit back.
Absolutely. I mean, he knows he just took 2 bases of Spirit effectively and a ton of SCVs. I don't know if he knows that he has the supply lead, but yeah, just sit back. And that's exactly what he's going to do. Drops even an extra sensor tower. So this is where those medevacs were kind of bait. If you're Spirit, I don't know if you even go back for those because they're going to do the damage that they're going to do. And at the point at which that happened, he had like a 20 supply lead. Now it's growing thinner and thinner, and the army of HeroMarine is growing larger and larger, and the longer time goes on, the better it is. These Ravens, the last saving grace, they're going to disable all of the tanks here, at least in this location. So HeroMarine would be wise, I think, to forfeit this base. This is an engagement that Spirit would love to take down the Planetary Force and hold that high ground with the 2 tanks.
Yeah, the siege tanks, though, are once again back in action as HeroMarine is ready to continue fighting here. The tanks will go down, but there's just so many tanks in red. 13 versus 61 Marines. I mean, Spirit is hoping for a golden engagement, and he's trying his very best to force it, but I actually think giving up this position would not even be a bad choice here. Well, now even the medevacs, they find that starport production in the top left. I mean, there's not much going anymore for Spirit.
No, and you can't even evacuate enough units with these 3 medevacs, right? Not enough units are going to fit there, so he's just kind of trapped. And yeah, HeroMarine is corralling him like a chicken here.
Yep. Now, he doesn't need to be here. HeroMarine, that is. He could just play this a little bit more passively, let the opponent come to him, but instead he's going to try and force the engagement, and now this fight will take place within a lot of siege tanks range, and that's going to be the end for Spirit in this particular best-of-3 series, as he's desperately trying to pull a rabbit out of a hat, but there's way too much. And HeroMarine ends up obtaining the victory.
I mean, an absolutely crazy series, but that game 3 in particular was just so chaotic and so back and forth, and yeah, I mean, very difficult to call, very fun series to watch. However, let's see what the analysts and Calaris have to say in the Calaris Dome.
Honoring the dome, thank you very much, Cats. But what another Bobby Dazzler for this series. We've got Rotterdam and Fear Dragon to talk about this one. Roddy, this was all, they were so evenly matched in so many scenarios. It really produced a great series.
Yeah, Spirit almost made a bit of history for himself, because that would have been the first time in the 9-year history that he has with his opponent that he would have won 4 series in a row. And I'll be dead honest, I really thought he had it. That first game, I thought he was in trouble, but he did such a good job in defending far away from his natural, saved a couple of units low HP, and then had a secondary defense line where in the end he was able to stabilize on 3 bases versus the 2 bases of Gabe. But Calaris, I already unmuted myself at the end of game 2, or at least what I thought was going to be the end, because I thought it's coming back to the Calaris Dome. This game is over, Spirit 2-0, but Gabriel pulling off a miracle, and obviously Spirit being a tiny bit sloppy in the defense, somehow, some way allowed Gabe to win game 2.
Yeah, ridiculous stuff. Pushes us through to that game 3, and again, Fear Dragon, looking at this in the highlights brought to you by Aramco, it was just constant, never-ending, back and forth. We even had an opportunity and maybe a base trade, but we had HeroMarine come back to defend it in this engagement.
Yeah, it was, game 3 was just absolutely hectic, and it was so much fun to watch, but it really did feel like things like this would keep happening. Spirit kept finding opportunities to seize like individual moments where he'd find HeroMarine slightly out of position, or HeroMarine starting to reposition. He'd jump on things, and it feels like he'd get little leads that way. But then when it came to the actual fights and everything, it felt like HeroMarine was always really well set up, would oftentimes be taking really great engagements in the actual big important things. And in the end, I mean, we did see a super duper close game, but Spirit, God, he literally fought to almost the last unit there.
Yeah, definitely, definitely. I think the thing that interested me most, Roddy, was game 2, because very evenly matched, but slight clash of styles, right? And that HeroMarine is constantly putting on this pressure and eventually kind of eking out these small mistakes from Spirit to be able to push him forwards.
Yeah, Gabe was obviously very committed. He was on 55 SCVs, 3 bases, that was it. Magic was supposed to happen, but if the magic doesn't happen initially, then normally you're in all sorts of trouble. But Spirit, it felt that he was planning too far ahead, right? We saw him go up to 5 bases, multiple starports, advanced ballistics. He was preparing for a phase of the game that HeroMarine never wanted to see. For Gabe, it was very simple. It was do or die, now or never. And then he obviously found Spirit out of position at the 3rd pace. It was a beautiful move by Gabe. He was decisive, and you could see that Spirit panicked a bit, commanded a bunch of units, and from that point on, there was no return anymore. But that was obviously a game that was supposed to go towards Spirit.
Well, HeroMarine is now going up against Oliveira, the world champion, in a best of 5. And then as we look down towards the lower bracket, it will be Lambo versus Spirit. For Spirit here at the bottom, Fear Dragon, what do you think is Ares' hopes going up against Lambo?
Oh, man, you know, it's kind of tough. I do have to say, I think I give some pretty good favoritism to Spirit on this, just because even though Spirit just lost that series and everything, I think he has been looking still like a really strong player as of late, including in this particular event, even in just versus that series versus HeroMarine. Lambo, I think I was a little bit more concerned about kind of his start there. I think he can absolutely bounce back from things, but I do definitely give a bit of favoritism to Spirit on that.
You look in thought, Rotterdam. Any thoughts?
No, I was just thinking, I know that those two are very good friends. They are part of what we like to call the Great Guys, a very exclusive, and as far as I know, the only active Skype group around the world. So they have a lot of history. They've gone on holidays with one another. I don't know. Normally, I favor Lambo, but yeah, Lambo recently switched mice, and for some people, that's not a big deal. You have two sorts of video gamers, right? Some of them, they can pick up whatever equipment and be good, and then you've got the likes of me, and it takes me like a year to get used to a different mouse. I don't know how well it's going for Lambo, so I guess right now it is very close, also combined with the fact that what Fear Dragon just said is very true. Spirit is playing the best StarCraft 2 out of his career, and that's not a cliche, not a casual thing. He has rarely done as good as he's currently doing, and consistently multiple tournaments in a row. So
all right, well, thank you very much, gentlemen. Time for a break now, as we got 2 more series to come here for Gamers Without Borders for day number 1 of the tournament, of the extravaganza of the festivities that are ongoing. It's going to be Reina versus Special after this break, so join us for more Gamers Without Borders.